Hello and welcome to this edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm your host, Adrian Atkinson. It's the first Thursday in the month of June, and I hope you're kicking off the month with good energy and even better minds. Coming up next, we take a powerful look at an issue that often goes unnoticed, the link between domestic violence and HIV and AIDS. There's a lot more ahead as we've got stories you won't want to miss. So stay with us. The news is up next.
Good day, I'm Theodore Henry, and this is your JIS News for Thursday, June 5, 2025. With the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season projected to be above normal, government is working to address gaps identified in the country's disaster response system following last year's impact of Hurricane Beryl. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness says while Jamaica was spared the worst, the storm was a lesson on areas of weakness that need to be addressed going forward.
And being at the forefront of the response, I saw the gaps. I saw the potential threats. And what the role of leadership is, it is to ensure that even though you escaped the worst, you don't just sit back and say, it's past. You have to strengthen the institution so that if there were to be a return of the threat, you can genuinely be able to stand up to it.
Government, he says, is building a culture of resilience that is data-driven, locally grounded, and globally informed. This will be aided by the work of the Disaster Risk Management Review Committee that was established after Hurricane Beryl. The committee undertook a comprehensive review of the country's disaster framework, identifying key vulnerabilities and priority areas for reform. The Prime Minister says areas of priority include improving the resilience of the country's utilities, reinforcing adherence to the building codes, especially as it regards roofs, continued expansion of our early warning system, and greater investment in coastal protection. But he stresses that none of this is possible without a stable economy.
That is where it starts. If you don't have an economy, then you're going to be relying on other people to help you recover from your disaster. And I want to say as clearly as I can, what has changed in Jamaica in the last decade is that we are able as a country to stand on our own 2 feet and respond effectively to disasters.
The Prime Minister was speaking at a meeting of the National Disaster Risk Management Council on Wednesday. A 60% chance of an above-normal season is projected for the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season, which runs from June 1 to November 30. This includes 13 to 19 named storms, 6 to 10 of them developing into hurricanes, of which 3 to 5 may be major hurricanes. The government has launched a project to revitalize town centers, beginning with Barbican and Halfway Tree. Under what's called the GO initiative, town centers will get a facelift. This is to include the paving and resurfacing of key areas, repairs to sidewalks, installation of safety barriers, road markings and lighting, and beautification and landscaping. Minister with responsibility for works, Robert Morgan, made the announcement in his sectoral debate presentation to Parliament on Tuesday.
I had a conversation with Minister Mackenzie, and one of the things we are going to be doing is partnering with the Fire Brigade and the National Solid Waste Management Authority to ensure periodical cleaning and maintenance of these areas.
In addition to Barbican and Halfway Tree, 10 more town centers, including Ocho Rios, are scheduled for an upgrade this year. Jamaica's parish courts are now officially free from backlog. That's according to the Minister of Justice Delroy Chuck, who was making his sectoral presentation in Parliament Tuesday.
The records, Madam Speaker, show that the backlog in our parish courts has literally disappeared. Today, we have less than 2% backlog. International standards state that once you're below the threshold of 5%, you're considered backlog-free. Madam Speaker, this is a historic achievement.
He went on to say that more than 70% of cases in parish courts are now completed within 12 months. To support ongoing reforms, Minister Chuck says over $180 million is being invested in technology aimed at improving case and staff data management. Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining, Floyd Green, has issued a strong warning to mining companies that delays in land reclamation will no longer be tolerated. The warning came during the recent Bauxite and Alumina Day event at the Jamaica Bauxite Institute in St. Andrew, held as part of National Minerals Week. Minister Green emphasized that mining companies must now be defined by reclamation, rehabilitation, and revitalization.
The mining areas that have been completed 2 years ago, we expect them to be reclaimed in accordance with the time. I'm also not minded to contemplate any waivers. We have gotten into a habit where we don't reclaim, we don't pay, and we expect the government to waive. I'm happy that all the companies are here. We are not going down that road. You have been warned.
He says the ultimate goal is to restore mined lands to a natural or economically productive state in keeping with national sustainable development efforts.
We are setting back our industry by not sticking to the guidelines that have been set out, especially on redevelopment of our communities, resettlement programs. We have to accelerate the pace. And I'm saying this especially to our local managing directors to communicate to our international partners, as I have already communicated, that these things are now non-negotiable.
In the meantime, Minister Green is urging citizens to use the Mining Matters app to report concerns about mining operations in real time. 8 of Jamaica's 11 members of the Jamaica Conch Cluster, JCC, have received Marine Stewardship Council MSC Chain of Custody certification. The MSC certification guarantees that seafood bearing its blue label originates from a sustainably managed and certified fishery. It also supports long-term economic stability for those in the sector. This achievement follows a major breakthrough last year when the JCC established the world's first and only MSC-certified queen conch fishery in Jamaica.
Now this Marine Stewardship Council certification for us is like a golden ticket. It says to the world that we're doing our fisheries in a sustainable manner. So it means that when our Jamaican conch arrives in North America, arrives in Canada, arrives in the UK market, it carries more than just premium quality. It brings with it a story. So we believe that we are now well positioned to claim our share of price premiums that MSC certified seafood commands.
The minister was speaking at the recent closing ceremony for the 2-year JCC project held at the Inter-American Development Bank IDB offices in Kingston. And finally, Minister of Local Government and Community Development, Desmond McKenzie, says an audit is to be conducted on the remaining standpipes across the island. This, he says, is to ensure that these are being used for their intended purpose and not being commercialized.
And once we have completed those audits, the local authorities will be put in a position to take the necessary steps to reduce the waste that is being generated by those who are using the water and using the water illegally.
Minister McKenzie was addressing a recent groundbreaking ceremony under the Indigent Housing Program in porous Manchester. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
Domestic violence doesn't just leave physical and emotional scars, it can also have a serious impact on one's health, including vulnerability to HIV and AIDS. In this segment, we explore the complex link between abusive relationships and the challenges around HIV prevention and care. It's a powerful reminder of why safety, education, and support must go hand in hand.
Domestic violence on its own is a long-standing issue being tackled on many fronts. Still, it persists. The HIV/AIDS virus, too, is being tackled on many fronts, but with challenges such as discrimination, the battle rages on. And the catastrophic combination of these two could pose a threat to the United Nations goal of ending contraction of the virus by the year 2030.
Many times people sit out there and they judge people living with HIV. How you know you have the virus and you don't go to the doctor and you don't take your medication? But there's so much more happening in people's lives that you'd be surprised to know this HIV that you take as the big thing becomes minor to all the other challenges that they are trying to cope with.
Challenges like the fear of one's spouse, knowing that resistance could be met with physical and other abuse, making it easy for the abuser to use forced or coerced intercourse unprotected at that. Domestic violence generally makes negotiation during intercourse difficult or non-existent. It's often cloaked in the idea of a woman being a man's property instead of his beloved in need of his protection.
The cultural norms about what it means to be man or woman, the cultural beliefs that continues to say, you are in charge. As the man, you are supposed to take charge, and if the woman does anything out of line, you are supposed to put her in place.
And our society propels these ideas further when we victim blame, putting the burden of responsibility on those on the receiving end of the abuse.
We don't have a supportive society when it comes to these issues of domestic violence. One of the first things is asked in numerous cases is what you do. Why you don't make the man lick you? This is a frequent question in instances. People have gone to the police to make reports, and the question is asked. They have gone to health facilities to seek health care for the injuries suffered during the violent attack, and they have been asked these questions. So there's always the victim blaming, and because of that, many people hide it. They don't talk about it. They don't say that they have experienced this.
And an abusive partner knows this and further exerts control by restricting access to medical care, including HIV testing and medication, which could reduce the risk of infection.
And they stay there with injuries that are life-threatening because how am I going to explain how I got this injury? How am I going to explain they're going to think I'm not some women may think they're not going to think I'm not a good woman, I'm not a good wife. Why did the man have to abuse me?
And abuse is not always physical. Many times it's psychological or even from the standpoint of economic dependence. This is when the partner with financial control prevents their victim from leaving an abusive relationship by exerting this fact, trapping them in a situation where they are continuously dependent and exposed to further abuse and the risk of contracting HIV.
Many times people reduce violence to the physical, sexual, but there is emotional, there is financial, there is neglect, there is all these ones. And many times it is the economic disparity between the two that makes people more susceptible to these forms of violence. You find that many persons who experience violence are dependent on the abuser. They are dependent on the abuser for their own survival. They are dependent on the abuser for the survival of their children. They are dependent on the abuser for the survival of the extended family. And because of that, many times they remain in the abusive situation. And this level of economic dependence increases their vulnerability to both violence and HIV.
and one who exerts physical and economic dominance may seek further control by causing isolation. When there's isolation, people may become unaware, and a lack of awareness and education may cause victims to not have access to information about HIV prevention.
When they feel they are out of options, they stay away. And this staying away may mean staying away from work, staying away from their social circles, staying away from needed health care. This is one of the causes where people living with HIV who are experiencing domestic violence end up drop out of care.
This is where the Jamaica AIDS Support for Life comes in, working with victims and giving them much needed support.
We provide a suite of services. We provide what we call holistic care. It's not just about treating the HIV virus, but we provide psychosocial support. We have full-time psychologists on staff that we make accessible to our clients. We have social workers who may assess their needs. Basic, it may be basic food, basic survival. It may be to help with job placement. It may be some sort of economic support. It may be some sort of income generating grant. We look at the whole man, whatever it takes to help, and we provide the legal support most of all. If it means that we have to go to court in helping these persons to get out of their situation, if we have to connect them to some form of shelter, whatever it is that is needed to get people in care. HIV is just one aspect of their life. It is just an illness, like any other illness. So if you think you're just going to focus on that and ignore all the other areas of their lives, you're going to have little or no success. Simply put, in Jamaica, them say you can't take pill on hungry belly. So just consider someone who don't even have food to eat. And you may be looking from the other side of the fence and say why they don't take their medication, but they don't even have food to eat. And right now, their primary concern is where the next meal is coming from or where the meal is coming from, as opposed to whether or not I'm going to go seek care and take medication. So we have to take a holistic approach to helping people who are survivors of domestic violence and also those living with HIV.
I wonder who that somebody be. No, sir. Let me look for my glasses. Oh, that somebody look like right, sir. It's Latte walk on. Me glad for see you, right? Although things never go on for you, America, me glad say you there.
Yes.
Lift your head high.
Yes.
Stay out of trouble.
Yes.
And you can have a fresh start back home.
All right, Mr. P. Thanks, you hear?
Let's all work together for a fresh start back home.
This message is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Buying a house is one of the biggest steps in anyone's life. And for many Jamaicans, it's becoming more than just a dream. It's a real possibility. In this next feature, we explore the government's ongoing efforts to open more doors, literally, for home ownership across the island.
The NHD will commence construction on more than 19,575 solutions across all parishes over the next 2 years and continues to acquire land for new development. Commencing July 1, 2025, for contributors who earn less than $30,000 weekly, the deposit requirement on open market loans will be reduced to 2% if the housing solution being acquired is priced at or below $14 million. The individual loan limit will be increased from $7.5 million to $9 million. For 2 co-applicants, the combined maximum loan limit will be increased from $15 million to $17 million. And for 3 co-applicants, it will be increased from $21 million to $23 million. If an individual mortgager is purchasing a unit at 14 million or less, the NHT will lend that individual up to $12 million, subject to availability. Now, also for construction of houses by individual contributors, the individual construction loan limit will be increased to $11 million. For 2 co-applicants, it will be for $17 million, and for 3, $23 million. Starting July 1, 2025, the service charge on mortgages will be reduced as follows. For prospective mortgagors who earn $30,000 or less each week, their service charge will be reduced from 2% of the loan amount to 0. And for prospective mortgagors earning between $30,000 and $42,000 per week, the service charge will be reduced from 5% of the loan to 2%. Prospective mortgagors earning $42,001 per week and above, their service charge remain at 5%. Currently, a minimum wage earner who has contributed to the NHT for at least 7 years may access a home grant of up to $3.5 million. We are modifying the eligibility requirement in order to make the grant available to more contributors. The maximum qualifying income for home grants will now be $30,000 per week. Effective July 1, 2025, the NHT will reduce the waiting time for accessing home improvement loans from 10 years to 7 years. And we have increased the loan limit to $5 million from $3.5 million. Effective July 1, 2025, private sector mortgagors will have the option of either a cash refund or the application of their refund amounts to their existing mortgage obligation, provided that the loan is free of arrears. Madam Speaker, this will be assessed on a year-by-year basis based upon the NHT's cash flow position. The NHT will expand its institutional loan program and pursue partnerships with hospitals through the Ministry of Health and Wellness and the regional health authorities to provide housing for employees in the public health system. Where possible, these housing units will be constructed on the hospital compound. The NHT has begun preliminary discussions with the University Hospital of the West Indies and one rural hospital under this program.
Hurricanes can be dangerous, catastrophic events, but we can lessen the damage if we are prepared. Keep up to date with the latest information from reliable sources such as the Meteorological Service and ODPEM. The power will probably go with the internet following, so a good old battery-operated radio is a must-have. Stock up on non-perishable food items and emergency items such as flashlights and extra batteries. Secure important documents. Have a pre-packed emergency bag with safety gear such as raincoats and water boots. Ensure windows are protected and roofing is secured. Have updated information on emergency shelters near you in case you need to evacuate during the storm. Preparation will lessen the devastation when dealing with a hurricane. Be prepared.
The storm season is officially here, and while most of us seek shelter, a special group of experts, the hurricane hunters, fly straight into the storm to track what is coming our way. It's risky business, but the information they bring back helps protect all of us. Strap in, we're heading into the storm.
Hurricane Matthew is still a Category 4 hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson scale. It is continuing to move northward, which takes it closer and closer to Jamaican waters. More information is coming out from the Hurricane Center.
The Atlantic hurricane season runs from June 1 through to November 30. These dates historically describe the period when most tropical cyclones form in the Atlantic basin. A number of tools are used, like satellites, radars, and computer models, to determine where a hurricane will go and how intense it will be. But a critical part of forecasting is done by the specially equipped NOAA aircrafts called Hurricane Hunters, which collect data through high-flying meteorological stations.
That will be transmitted back to the Hurricane Center and then made available to all the region, including Jamaica.
WC-130J Hercules is a high-wing, medium-range aircraft used in weather reconnaissance missions. This plane is configured to penetrate tropical disturbances and storms, as well as hurricanes and winter storms, and get data on the movement, size, and intensity of these systems. The NOAA Gulfstream model, nicknamed Gonzo, is a high-tech, high-flying, and high-speed twin-engine jet that flies around and over developing tropical cyclones to create a detailed picture of the surrounding upper atmosphere. It has a range of nearly 4,000 nautical miles and a cruising altitude of 45,000 feet. The Lockheed model, nicknamed Kermit, is in a class by itself. Formulated with unique scientific instrumentation, radars, and recording systems, the Kermit is able to do horizontal and vertical scans of storms.
So we'll have two meteorologists sit up front there. The person in the left seat is usually verifying the drops-on data that we're collecting. The person on the right is helping with navigation. The station behind that is where our radar operator sits. So we've got a radar in the nose and a radar in the tail collecting data for us. This is where all of our data systems reside. And then back here is where we're actually dropping the songs. So we'll prepare one of the songs here, pass it over to that guy. He'll prepare it there just so we have a backup just in case this computer goes dead or that computer goes dead. Once the song is ready to go, close the door.
Cutting through the eye wall of a hurricane, lashed by extreme winds, dazzling rain, and fierce updrafts and downdrafts before entering the calm of the storm. Probing every wind and pressure change during the course of 8 to 10 hours. So why aren't these aircrafts torn apart during these flights? Well, they are generally not destroyed by strong winds while in flight. It's the sheer or sudden change in horizontal or vertical winds that can destroy an aircraft or cause its loss of control. That's why NOAA Hurricane Hunter aircraft don't fly through tornadoes, but they are always monitoring for hotspots of severe weather and shear that they can often identify on radar and avoid if it's too severe.
We are always in direct communication with the National Hurricane Center. As soon as they get the information, we speak to them, they tell us what is happening, and so when we are ready to issue a warning, if we feel that we are threatened, we communicate that to the Hurricane Center. We are ready to issue a warning, what do you think? And we take that decision and they make it public to all the countries, not only in the region, but even wider than that through the internet and other means.
And that brings us to the end of today's edition of Jamaica Magazine. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. Be sure to join us again tomorrow for more stories that inform, inspire, and empower. In the meantime, visit our website at gis.gop.jm. On behalf of the entire team here at the GIS, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Stay safe and do take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.